So as we get close to the holiday season, so many people asking, is it even safe to travel this holiday season? We'll go through the risks that you should be aware of. Various forms of travel and transportation have not been assessed or analyzed and given a specific level of risk because there are just too many evolving and dynamic and changing variables at play here. I want to encourage people to go back to 5 basic elements or parameters that you can plug in to various types of travel and help use them to assess your individual risk. And those elements are time, place, people, space, and masks. So let's go through them one at a time. Time. How long will you be in a various or given situation? More time is riskier than less time. The cutoff, as issued by the CDC, is 15 minutes of cumulative time. Most types of travel take longer than 15 minutes. Next is place. Will you be inside or outside? Will it be well ventilated or poorly ventilated? Most types of travel, ventilation is an issue. The caveat is, believe it or not, airplane travel. A study done at MIT actually showed that when everyone was masked and on a 2-hour flight with an open middle seat, that the risk of becoming infected with COVID-19 was extremely low, and the risk of dying from an infection of COVID-19 was incredibly low. That does not mean zero, but the way that the air is constantly filtered and exchanged on most commercial aircraft makes it relatively safe compared to other types of travel, provided that people are masked. Next element is space. Are you indoors or outdoors? Again, most forms of travel involve some type of indoor environment. The caveat here may be automobile travel. If you are in a car or a bus and you can keep windows open and air circulating, that will lower risk. And then people. How many people are near you? The closer people are to you and the more densely crowded an environment, the higher the risk. And lastly, masked. If everyone is masked, the risk goes way down. So when you talk about travel on a plane, there are some tips, common sense tips that can really help lower your risk. Try to reduce your movement around the plane during the flight. So get to your seat, wipe it down, the armrests, anything that you might be touching, and then try to stay in your seat. That will reduce the number of people you come into close direct contact with. Lastly is eye protection. I asked Dr. Anthony Fauci about this early on in the pandemic, and he said, while not a universal or official recommendation, it's common sense. The eyes represent a mucous membrane. We know that the virus can enter our body via mucous membranes such as the eyes, nose, and mouth. So if you can wear eyeglasses or some kind of an eye shield in addition to a face covering, that would offer an additional degree of protection. For people who will be getting together during Thanksgiving or other holidays this winter season, there really is no way to make the risk zero. There are steps you can take that will be really on a case-by-case basis, but one of them is to quarantine for 14 days before you rejoin your friends and family. Again, strict quarantine would be ideal, but that's not always practical or realistic for people. Then when you arrive, let's say at your relative's home, depends who those relatives are. If they're older people, if they're people with pre-existing medical conditions, it may be prudent to wear masks indoors, and that's masks on everyone. Keeping windows open, keeping doors open, being outdoors as much as possible, which is obviously difficult to do in a lot of parts of the country where the weather does not accommodate that. And then keeping distance, sitting down at that holiday table where you're elbow to elbow for several hours, not smart this year. All you have to do is think of the saying in medicine, it only has to happen once. And you may feel fine, have no symptoms, be infected with SARS-CoV-2 or COVID-19, and transmit it to someone at your table who becomes seriously ill or worse with this virus. Here's the thing with testing before and after. It depends what kind of test, it depends how soon after and how soon before the get-together the test is done, and it depends what you do in that interim or in that interval between when you get tested and when you see the person. You can get a negative result, which may be accurate, and then be exposed an hour later, a day later, 2 days later, and then infect the people you're with. Also, every test has false negatives as well as false positives. Can it add another element, another factor or buffer in your realm of protection or safety? Yes, but it is not the end-all and be-all license to be close together, sit at a table without a mask for a prolonged period of time, because the margin of error is there and exposure latency period always exists when you talk about a virus like this.